Hey guys, welcome back to Suffer for Christ. Let's go ahead and hop into this one. This is Wes Huff on Andrew Schultz, I believe his name is, his podcast called Flagrant. If you don't know who Wes Huff is, super solid historian. Learned a lot from this guy. I'm still learning a lot from this guy. I've only found out about him probably about earlier this year, maybe. And I think a lot of people have since he's been on Joe Rogan's podcast and the whole Billy Carson deal, it blew up. But super solid. I wanted to watch this clip. He's asked a pretty common question, I think, that agnostics and atheists do ask, whether if I'm not a Christian, will I go to heaven? So let's listen to his response and then we'll give our thoughts afterwards.
If you're a non-Christian, can you get into heaven?
Important
What
question.
do you mean by non-Christian?
I mean, if you
Me.
just don't, him, me,
Yeah.
I'm agnostic.
So I would say God is not going to force anyone into heaven. In that, heaven, once again, remember, heaven is not the final destination.
Soft to know.
Heaven is the new earth, the final
What's a soft
destination.
no, right? Yeah.
So essentially, no one comes to the Father but through me, Jesus says. Right? But C.S. Lewis, once again, he says that hell is locked from the inside. So I would say that if you have spent your life not living out a life that is what Jesus has called you to do, to be, then Jesus is not going to force you into his presence. You're going to go. So Lewis also says, heaven is God's, or hell is God saying, thy will be done. So what you want in your life by rejecting Christ is what you're going to get in the afterlife.
Nobody wants hell.
Well,
You just accept, and I guess Hindus accept Jesus as, I've read like a yogi,
sure.
essentially, but maybe not the only form of God. And theoretically, I think it aligns with Christianity in some ways, if God is everywhere, we could all be God. Jesus is a human that he achieved his inner God. So
So that would be the Hindu way of working it out.
right. But then we accept Jesus. And
But
so,
even Hinduism is exclusivistic in certain regards. So like, no one is entirely inclusivistic, right? The exclusivists have to exclude the inclusivists. And the inclusivists have to exclude
how would
the
we, and I'm not,
exclusivists.
look, I don't know enough. So how are we exclusivists?
Right. So depending on what version of Hinduism you're talking about, because there's polytheistic Hinduism, there's monotheistic Hinduism, and there's atheistic or non-theistic Hinduism.
Yeah, you could
right?
be atheist Hindu. Yeah.
So they can't all be true. So truth by its very nature is exclusive, right? If I say 2 + 2 is 4, well, I'll give it Andrew the benefit of the doubt. Andrew says 2 + 2 is 4. I say 2 + 2 is 6. One of us is wrong. Now, we could both be wrong, but the truth is that 2 + 2 is 4. He's right. And so in that sense, that's an exclusive truth statement. So if you look at all the world religions, I would ultimately say they're all exclusivistic at some regard. I say Jesus is...
Exclusivistic in the most important regard.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I would say Christianity is inclusivistic in that all are called to come.
Yeah.
But it is exclusivistic in that Jesus loves you and calls you to come as you are, but he loves you too much to leave you where you are. And so it's unconditional, but it's not unconditioned. Because all you have to do is give up your life and follow Jesus.
I think conditioned is conditional.
Yeah.
They're putting a condition on it. Like that was a very poetic thing you said, but it doesn't actually mean anything.
Well, it does in the sense that when I say it's unconditional, it's that Jesus says all are welcome to come. But there is a condition.
Yeah.
There is, right? It's not nothing.
Yeah.
And in that sense, God is either, right, the universe in like an Eastern mystic kind of idea, or God is a personal being. They can't both be true. So I think all world religions have these like superficial agreements, but they disagree on the fundamentals, right? Who God is, who we are, why we're here, what sin is, what the afterlife is like, how we solve the problem of human flourishing. Like all these things are important topics, but Advil and arsenic both come in pill form. But it's not the similarities that make you choose one over the other when you have a headache. It's the differences. So as someone who has studied world religions, I would say that there is no such thing as a religion that accepts everything. Because even if I say Jesus is God incarnate and there's only one God, he's not just a guru, and his teachings actually don't give you reason to just chop him up to a guru, then that's excluding the worldview system of something like Hinduism.
You know, I never understood why people have the nerve that are not following Christ and understand that, hey, I'm choosing not to follow Christ. Like, this is something that, you know, I'm okay with. Or the agnostic, the guy that I feel like people that say they're agnostic, it's just such a cowardly thing to say, because it's almost like, you just call yourself an atheist, dude. Like, why are you so? I truly believe that the people that say that they're agnostic, they kind of either they know and they truly feel that there's a God, and they just refuse, like all of us, like, you know, they love their sin so much, but they refuse to give it up. And so they just label themselves agnostic, like if that's going to save them on Judgment Day, and it's not. I don't know if you've heard this analogy before. I'm sure you have. I've heard it tons of times, but I think it always reigns to be true whenever I hear somebody bring this up, when it's, you know, like Wes Huff did mention C.S. Lewis quote, which I love that quote, you know, hell is locked from the inside. But say for an example, if you don't know who I am, and I don't know who you are, and you don't even want anything to do with me, you like, and I know that you don't want anything to do with me. If you come to my house to feast with me and my family and my loved ones, why and who would in their right mind let you in to do that? And when you willingly rejected me, why would God allow you into heaven, sir? Like, that makes no sense, you know. And I feel like people get so overly emotional and overly sensitive about it, and they just say, well, that's not like a good God to me. I mean, you're the one that hasn't accepted him. You're the one that's refusing to let go of your sin and to die to yourself. And how Wes Huff said, there is a condition. What do you mean? That sounded poetic, but it means nothing. We're saying that the call to Christ, it's a beautiful gift, right? It's a free gift. It's a free gift and a free calling, as far as to turn to me, to follow me, to cast your cares and your anxieties at my feet. But the condition is that you die to yourself, your polluted self, your broken, wretched self, and you turn to me and you live for me. And the things that you once wanted, you don't want anymore. The things that you once struggled with, you don't submit to them. You give them to me. And people don't want to do that. People want to continue to love self. They want to continue to get the perks of the afterlife and eternity in heaven. They love the sound of it. They love when everybody says rest in peace and they're in a better place. You don't know that. So him saying that and asking that question, he probably didn't like the answer. And I think Wes Huff was very gentle with that answer, because I know some people that would have answered that a little bit more harshly. But, you know, I think he gave a pretty, I didn't hear the whole entire thing, but I think he gave a pretty good answer. And it's self-explanatory. I mean, you know, you don't accept Christ. You refuse to die to yourself and to live for him. I mean, and again, like the other guy said, like it is a condition, and Jesus wants you, as far as a universal, like I want these people to come to me and to turn to me. They're my children. They're made in my image. I love them. However, he loves you even more than that, to not leave you in your broken self, in your wretched ways. He desires for you to turn to him, and he wants to give you joy, and he wants to give you peace. That is a condition in itself. To me, it's the easiest condition. I feel like the choice, as far as a choice, and obviously the walk with Christ, we do suffer still. We still deal with trials. We still deal with death. We deal with these things on earth, but we know, and that's why what I would say to the guy is that, man, like, you say you're agnostic, you know, the joy that I have, that I'm going to be in eternity with no more sorrow and no more death, and just in complete paradise forever, for all eternity, from a time that I can't even grasp with my human mind, and nor can you, and nor can the smartest philosopher in the world. that brings me so much peace. And I want you to know that peace. But the only way to obtain that peace is if you accept Christ and you turn to him and you die to yourself and you pick up your cross and you follow him daily. That's the only way. That's the only way, because that is the call for salvation. I thought he answered that pretty well. I know he's been in the trenches, and, you know, Joe Rogan was the first one, you know, going on there, giving all those physical documents and the carbon copies to Joe Rogan, and just being like, wow, like seeing it in front of his face. That was amazing. You know, answering a lot of tough questions. I'm sure Joe, as an analytical person, asked. I probably wouldn't be able to answer even 20% of those questions, but Wes Huff, as a historian and knowing the facts and knowing these things and studies it for a living and does this for a living, was able to answer those questions and goes on here for 3 hours and 12 minutes with these comedians that always are trying to make a joke about everything and answering the questions and preaching the gospel and standing firm. So I love that. And let me know what your thoughts are. If you like this video, please like, subscribe. Until next time, God bless.